What is up, YouTube? Freakhill here. I am excited for CyberPunk 2077, without a doubt. And I believe I have the whole intro of the game figured out. So this is my theory on the base story of the game and where it's going to be going. I believe everything they showed us is all mostly linear, connected. Everything they've shown us from the start till now. And I think they gave us enough hints and they've given us enough clues to be able to piece this all together and know exactly how the game's going to start and where's it going to go. Alright, so a couple things to just clarify quick and point out, and then I'll give you my theory, and then I'll give you some interviews showing you and talking exactly supporting my theory. So I came up with this theory originally the day after the cinematic trailer came out, right? I was watching the trailers multiple times. I was thinking about it in the back of my head, and all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, oh, I understand how everything pieces together. I understand how this game starts, right? And I posted this to Reddit, right, the day after, but unfortunately, got lost in all the hype around everyone posting everything. So I'm gonna make this YouTube video, and hopefully, this helps some of you guys know where the game's gonna start off and getting excited as I am for seeing what comes next, right? Alright, so it was clear to me that Johnny Silverhand is in the game. He's not just a promotional hype man just for the stage, right? He is in the game. And beyond that, I believed he was some kind of AI, some kind of mental projection that you see on the chip that you just happen to have in your head. So he's going to be with you throughout the game, right? Also, if you look at the store pages and the descriptions of the games in multiple places, they say, in quote, from on Good Old Games websites for the game on Steam and all the realtors, they say quotes such as, you play as V, a mercenary outlaw going after a one-of-a-kind implant that is the key to immortality. So when I read that piece of information right there, it all just clicked to me, right? Knowing that Johnny's in the game. You even see him in the gameplay teaser trailer right before they showed the release date. You actually see him 2 times right off the corner of your screen. You kind of see him even holographic a little bit, right? Like kind of fading in and fading out. And so he's some kind of projection or mental projection in your head, right? So feeding all that together, it just clicked to me, right? And I said, oh, that chip that you just happen to have in your head, right? The job you just happen to be going to do, happen to be that chip of immortality, right? That Johnny Silverhand also, his personality is on that chip as well, right?
And I think the first thing I want to talk about is Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny Silverhand, is like kind of basically Cyberpunk's Cortana. He's just this AI, not AI, it's like a ghost of a human consciousness that's in your head, and so he's talking to you throughout the game, and as far as I understand, no one else can see him or talk to him.
Okay, that's extremely Neuromancer, and I'm pretty into it.
And he'll pop up occasionally, like if you're talking to somebody else, he'll like be behind them just chilling.
But Keanu Reeves is basically throughout the entire game? Scattered around maybe, but...
I don't think you meet him immediately,
right.
But I talked to one of the developers at CD Projekt Red, and they said he is a significant part of the game, and he's kind of, that's how he's with you, is
but
just through your brain.
But he's not just a marketing stunt?
No, I don't think so. I think he's basically like the little voice that goes with you on missions.
That makes me very happy to hear.
Yeah.
Johnny Silverhand was the lead singer of a band called Samurai, which also happens to be your jacket. I think you were just a big fan of the old band Samurai, right? So he was the lead singer of that. He was a rocker boy, but he was also ex-military, and they even gave him a mission to go and try and get his ex-girlfriend who got trapped in the net, Alt Cunningham, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they try and nuke the city, and they end up nuking the city, right? I'll get into more of this later.
Playing a rebel, a guy who, was in the ex-military, who started a rock band called Samurai, protest music. It sounded like fun. Don't know how much I'm at liberty to say. I think it's okay to say that there was a moment of maybe death. But I'm still around.
Now you might be thinking that's a stretch, right? If they say you're going after this one-of-a-kind chip, why would they give it to you in the beginning of the game, right? I was thinking the same thing, though. And they say in a few interviews, they're not trying to spoil the story of the game. They're not trying to spoil the mid-game, the major twist, the end game, right? But they've showed us a lot of information right now.
So the chip is extremely important for the main story, so I need to be careful and not to spoil absolutely the most important parts of the game. But the chip is something that the V has been sent for to brought in for Dex, and the it didn't really work out the way it should be, right? Something happened, and this is very experimental technology.
CD Projekt Red is better than that, right? They're smarter than that. They wouldn't give that much away now, right? They wouldn't let slip on their story pages the major plot, the end game of the game. So when you think about it like that and you piece it together, the only thing that makes sense is that chip that you have, the V puts onto the back of his head, just happens to also be the chip of immortality, right? Knowing that this is a video game, it all starts to make sense to you, right? As a video game character, as a main character, you're going to die, right? And we always have some kind of respawn in games. Well, what if this is the lore, the immersion excuse of why you can keep coming back to life, right? This started making my head really start to think and go, oh, what if they had this really cool kind of, not so much permadeath, but like death mechanic, right? I hate to say it, but like maybe on the lines of like a Dark Souls-esque, but not to that extreme level of death, right? Whereas if you die in the game, maybe you lose some of your augments, or you lose some in-game time, and maybe there's some small NPC consequences because you just are offline for a while, or maybe you just spawn in the junkyard because that's contextually makes sense for how you died there, or maybe you end up in some other kind of contextual location where you get revived or respawn essentially because you can't die due to this immortal chip. That really makes me excited for some gameplay mechanics that they could do with death, right? That would not surprise me that they incorporated this level of immersion and forethought and uniqueness to a death mechanic for this game, and I think it just fits the mold perfectly, and it fits everything we've been knowing about this chip in the game, and it will continue the main story. But I just think that's awesome. They have some kind of, again, I'm just speculating there on the death mechanic, but they could do something very well with that. And obviously we see, I think it is tied in the story. When you die, this explains at least why you can come back to life in the story of the game, in the lore of the game, because you just happen to have the chip of immortality, right?
There were a little bit of story elements in there, like V has a biochip in their brain that is a mystery. For example, there's a part where a bunch of people get overridden, and it was supposed to like fry their brains, but V's fine.
And when you go, well, if you have the one-of-a-kind chip, what's the point of the game? Well, what's the first thing Johnny says to you, right? He spawns in front of you, he's in your head now, essentially, and he says, let's go burn the city, right? He has his own agenda. He has something he wants to accomplish that maybe he didn't get to finish prior to him losing his body, right? Or maybe he navigated his way to his chip, or he got put on this chip by force and he wants revenge, right? So there's multiple different reasons, but at some point he has his own agenda, right? But you, as a person, you're confused, right? You now figured out you're immortal. You now figure out Johnny Silverhand is just in your head in front of you now, guiding you around. But at the same time, you can have questions and you're confused. So everything I've heard from the interviews, this is the part that I'm adding to my theory now, which just adds to it perfectly, where the next mission that they show in this behind closed doors gameplay show right now is the next mission they have you do is you're going...
Had to go meet up with a gang called the Voodoo Boys, I believe they were called. And they're basically a group of like hacker netrunners, and you have a chip in your brain that you don't, like, was put there unwillingly, and you're trying to find out information about it. So you're trying to track down, I believe, the head of the Voodoo Boys to then tell you about this chip, but to find her, you have to break into this mall facility for them that's taken over by another gang called the Animals.
At the very end, you have to plunge into cyberspace to meet the first ever person who uploaded their consciousness completely into the net. So no physical body.
Definitely getting some William Gibson vibes there.
Art Cunningham is the name.
You're putting yourself in the net to even meet. The lady says Art Cunningham, but she obviously said that wrong, and it's supposed to be Alt Cunningham. So now the next mission you're doing is you're going to try, and they even say to figure out more about this chip. You're going to go meet Alt Cunningham, who is trapped on the net since 2020, who happens to be Johnny Silverhand's ex-girlfriend. Well, maybe they're still dating, we'll find that out, but they stopped dating when she got put on the net and she wasn't in human form anymore. All intents and purposes, she was dead. Now Johnny's kind of dead too, so maybe that's why Johnny is trying to take you there. Maybe they got into a fight when they've been living on this net for a while. A whole bunch of factors there, but the point is you're going to meet Cunningham, right? You're going to try and get some questions answered about this chip or how it works or why Johnny's there or how Johnny ties into all this. But at some point, and so I think that's how the game starts, right? I think the junkyard scene when you wake up, like it's almost like a very traditional in a way, very elaborate, but in a way traditional. So everything before that could have been a very in-depth tutorial section to the game, right? Getting you to understand how the world works, the fundamentals, some of your powers, some of your augments, right? Then they kill you off and they introduce you to your guide and the actual purpose of the game, right? You're no longer just a thug just doing random jobs. Now everyone in the world is going to be coming after you for this chip and trying to gun you down, and at the same time you have questions you want to go out and try and figure out, and Johnny has his own motive, right? All this together just sounds like the perfect intro to the game, right? I'm talking about like everything we've seen so far is like, I can't give it a time frame, but cue the intro cinematic of CyberPunk 2077, right? Like you just now, like you maybe be hours into the game and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I just realized that this is the start of the actual story of the game, and that makes me beyond hype, right? I am really excited for this game. It seems amazing. Everything I know about the story so far has just made me so excited, right? Like I only know the intro of the game, and everything else is going to be up to them, and I think we're just going to be blown away by what we see, right? So that's my theory on that. I know there might be some small plot holes, but I think about everything's kind of everything's kind of explained. But without a doubt, please don't just get straight on hate and be like, oh, he missed this one part, he must be completely wrong. I think the overall idea of my theory is going to be true, and we'll only find out when the game comes out, but let's have a conversation about this in the comments below if you disagree with me, right? I can explain in further detail more reasons why I believe this theory, more facts of that I think point in this direction, and this is how I think the game is going to start. But definitely let's have a conversation, and I would love to hear more from you guys. But that's it for me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in CyberPunk 2077. Bye.
The role player, whoever's playing, the character's name is V in the game. And so I interact with whoever's playing that, and I'm part of their journey. But they're also a part of mine. So, we're gonna see what happens.